Because this week we have Art, who is the first entrepreneur speaker series that I ever saw when I was a freshman, when Mackenzie was the facilitator. And so Art has been in the tech industry, as you know, he's the founder of Norins. He's been in the tech industry up until a year and a half ago, and currently he's working on eradicating poverty, and I'll love to tell you how he's doing that. So a big round of applause for Art Norins.
Surprised that you guys invited me back. It's like, what are you thinking? As you said, my name is Art Norins. It's an honor to be here. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and actually about a year and a half ago, I transitioned out of my internet company to focusing on social impact work, specifically eradicating poverty. But today, it's all about us here. You guys are wicked smart. You guys are on the right to be sitting in these chairs here, and I'm really big about helping students about finding their passion and what they want to do in life. So. What I'd like to do is, one, is at some point in time, probably like in about 20 minutes or 25 minutes, I'd like to go around the room, I'd like you to say your name, and then where you grew up. And then the third thing I'd like you to do is tell me is if you had your diploma right now, and I gave you $1 billion, you can kind of do whatever you want. Figure out how you want to spend your day. What do you want to be doing when you wake up each morning? So you don't have to worry about school, you don't have to worry about your parents, you have financial security for the rest of your life. So how are you going to spend your day? So what I like you to do is, don't overanalyze it. If just something bubbles up, like, I'd love to play the violin, that's a fine answer. Or if you have some other, whatever that may be, but I'd love to hear that. Or if you don't know, that's fine too, and say, don't know. But would prefer that if there's anything that gets you interested, I'd love to hear what that is. So we'll do that in about 20 minutes. What I thought I would do is going back to a little bit of my journey in life. Kind of sharing with you how I found my passion, and maybe that will resonate with some of you, because I know when I was back, so I'm originally from the Midwest. Don't hold that against me. Went to Purdue University, engineering degree, and when I was actually at Purdue getting my engineering degree, I actually didn't like school. I'm from a family. I'm the mistake or surprise of my family. I'm 10 years younger. I have 3 older sisters. All my siblings are physicians, including my father. I saw blood as a kid and passed out. Knew that's not what I wanted to do. So I had a used toy business when I was a kid. I love people and I love to build. So I had all kinds of different projects, made hovercrafts, had a big landscaping business, big painting business. But I remember I did well in high school, but I just really, it's like, I don't know what I want to do. And so my parents were like, please, get a degree. So I ended up going to Purdue, getting an engineering degree. But when I was at Purdue, like I said, I really didn't like my classes, thermodynamics, all these mass heat transfer. I was like, how does it apply? What I did know, though, is 2 things. One is kind of always wanted to have my own company. And then 2, for whatever reason, I wanted to have my own airline. Ever since I was a kid, I think in a past life, I wanted to have an airline. So literally, ever since I was a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to start my own airline. Like Southwest Airlines, but international. So when I was at Purdue, didn't like class, but what I did like is speakers. Like when speakers like myself are coming into class, I'd go to those, and I'd listen to the speakers and try to relate. And I remember that one of the speakers was the CEO of UPS. And he was speaking, and he was like, oh, I didn't know really what I wanted. It just sounded like my life exactly. And he said he wanted to start his own business, and right after he was done talking, I'm one of these guys, if I hear something that's interesting to me, I'm really big on mentors, so I ran up and started speaking to him. And I told him, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to start my own company. And he goes, you know what you should do is you should find a job as a 100% commission sales engineer. And he suggested that role because he goes, if you want to start your own company, you're going to have to be able to sell yourself to people. You're going to be able to raise money. And you need to be able to sell a vision. And so as a 100% commission salesperson, as you guys know, you don't get paid unless you sell. So it's kind of live and die by the vine. So that was the advice he gave me. I ended up befriending him. He was a good friend for many, many years. I'm really going back. Mentors has been a huge supporter in my career growth. And so I started looking for jobs that were 100% commission. I took this job at Train, which is a commercial air conditioning company. Was not interested in air conditioning at all. Actually, I hated air conditioning, but it was 100% commission, so I was going to do it. So I went and sold air conditioning for this Train company. Actually did really well financially, which gave me a lot of confidence. Like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this sales thing. So I actually then left my air conditioning company and started my own air conditioning company, where we had a manufacturer in Germany and then a manufacturer in China. And so saw that company start with just myself to then hiring a lot of employees, which was a really fun journey. And I'm going to go a little bit of hurry up offense here because I'm going to kind of give you an overview of my kind of life and then open it up to questions to you guys so you guys can drill down in whatever area that you may be interested in and may be resonate for you guys. So as I was building that air conditioning company, I started traveling a lot, 200 nights a year in hotels, a million-mile on Lufthansa Airlines, Singapore Airlines, traveling literally all over the world, supplying specialized heating and air conditioning to like semiconductor chip manufacturing, biotech companies. And as I was doing that, our company grew a lot, we became profitable, and I was like, hey, it's amazing what you can do by putting your mind to it. So what I decided to do is, I think it's time to try to start that airline idea. So put a business plan together as I was building my air conditioning company. I had some other business partners that they worked with me and allowed me kind of my free time. When I was flying, I'm putting this airline business plan together, and I tried to raise $500 million to start an airline. And so that brought me into my whole next kind of chapter. And this is when I started really kind of leaning in and really following my heart. And also it was a combination of two things. Is I had the confidence, I had made money, I knew how to make money, so I didn't, I wasn't dependent on my parents. I think that's really important, that you gotta be able to stand on your own 2 feet and not to be dependent on anyone. So I've proven to myself that I can stand on my own 2 feet and pay bills. And then the next thing was I want to try to raise this money to start this airline. And kind of my personality is, I've never been like the sharpest knife in the drawer. I think one of my greatest skills is I just never give up. And I'm not smart enough to overthink things. It's like, hey, I think I can start an airline. I think I can raise $500 million. I remember my parents, my father's a physician, he's like, what are you, crazy? He would thought I was crazy getting a 100% commission sales job. My family's very conservative, salary, just that whole job occupation they thought was crazy. But then I ended up doing really well. Then he's like, you're going to leave the air conditioning business and start an airline? So I was constantly having friction with, I love my father, he's an amazing individual. I bring this up because I believe each and every one of us have boundaries. We have glass ceilings that are around us, where it may be ourselves that say we can't do it, or a family member, or somebody that we're close to. And that was, my dad loves me. At the same time, from birth, I just constantly scared him to death about the journey of my life. And so, but because I had had success with the air conditioning business, I went out and tried to raise money for the airline. And so I'm one of these just relentless. I went to Purdue. Purdue has a big aeronautical engineering school. So I went to the president of Purdue going, hey, can you introduce me to people that have been in the aerospace industry? And so I got connected to a lot of the CEOs in the aerospace industry. And it was interesting, one of the things they shared with me, as I met all these heavy hitters in the airline industry, they said, the fastest way to be a millionaire is to be a billionaire and invest in an airline. So let's say that again. The fastest way to be a millionaire is be a billionaire and invest in an airline. So they said, that is not a good investment. We're not going to support your airline idea. But we really like you, Art, your personality, your drive, your focus. We think that, because that's what a lot of investors, they look at the individual. And on top of it, I had this huge business plan. They said, get rid of this whole business plan except this one little part of the business plan. And that little part of the business plan is, when I was flying, and you guys, show of hands, who's flown internationally here? I'm sure probably everyone. Yeah, exactly. So you guys know, typically there's 3-class service on these international flights. In business class, you have the lay flat seats, you have first class, which is infinitely nicer than economy class. Well, because I flew international every other week, there's two things. I've always worked for myself, so I've always been value conscious. So my friends call me sometimes cheap. So since I always paid the bill, I'd always fly in economy class. But because I flew a lot, I got upgraded for free a lot. And I thought to myself, there's a lot of consumers like me that have the money. I'm just not going to pay, I was flying back and forth between London and San Francisco every other week. I'm not going to pay an extra $4,000 for that ticket. I'll pay an extra $500, but not $4,000. So I came up with this idea going, hey, when you make your booking on British Airways or whatever, right after you buy the economy seat, it says, hey, would you be interested in paying, let's say, an extra $99 to be in business class? But you don't find out until you check in for your flight, on the day of your flight, if you get that business class seat. So if the airline can fill all their seats at full price, then good for them. Then you check in, you have to stay in your economy class seat, nothing gained, nothing lost. The flip side is if they don't sell all those premium seats, then congratulations, you've been upgraded to business class for only $99, which is a great value, so I'm super happy. They capture a little of incremental revenue, and it's a win-win for all. So that's the part of the business plan that all these guys said, Art, I will invest in your company, but only do that, but not for the airline industry. Do that for the hotel space. Because the airline industry has big ego, they'll never, if it's not invented in an airline, they won't believe you, or they won't buy your product. So here's the guys, the big financiers in the airline industry, they're telling me, we'll invest in your company, but only do a part of it, but in the hotel space. And so that was the seed of my internet company called Norins. And so we do the exact same thing, but for hotels. You book on Hilton, you get a standard room. Right after you book on Hilton.com for that standard room at the Hilton Hawaiian Village in Honolulu, it asks, hey, would you be interested in going up to the junior suite overlooking the ocean? That normally goes for an extra $500. You can get it for $49, but you can't, you don't find out if you get it until you check in. So, if the hotel can sell their suites at full price, great. If not, then, you as a consumer have this opportunity to get this great value for this suite. So I got that unique process patented, and we raised a ton of money, in venture money from Excel, major shareholder of Facebook, Goldman Sachs, and that was the beginning of Norins and an amazing journey. I'm also notorious, I know I talk fast, but hopefully you're getting a gist of what I'm saying here. Because I also, like I said, I like to open up to questions, to whatever you guys may have. So this brings us to kind of like halftime in my life. And so what I'd like to do now is just kind of go around to you guys, and one, your name, where you grew up, and the third thing, you can do whatever you want. Are we ready? Is there anyone that wants to start? Maybe we'll start right here in the corner. Sir, your name?
Yeah, Justin.
Justin, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. Second year, and if I was a trust fund maybe, is that the question? I
Could
would,
Wait, where are you from?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
And then I would probably be a basketball coach.
Nice.
Because I'm interested in sports and entertainment. So.
What I'd suggest to you, whatever you guys say, write it on a piece of paper and write the date. And because what happens in life, I call it domestication, is over time we're changed into, like, when we're younger, this is kind of what we want to do, but then over time our parents or whatever change really what's in our heart and what our real passion is. So like, this is the pragmatic thing to do. I can't tell you how many people I have that are friends that like told me one thing when they're younger, then became a dentist or whatever. Not that dentists are bad or anything of that nature, but I think you're hearing what I'm saying. I'm Art.
Sasha,
Nice to meet you.
I'm from Lancaster. I'm a senior. And what was the last question?
What do you want to, you can do anything you want in your life. What would you like to do?
Go to space.
Go to space.
Yeah.
I like it. Very cool. Sir, Art,
Ollie,
nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. I'm from Washington DC,
Yep.
and just anything I do, it's start a political tech company. Change the way that you interact with government, politics, that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Art,
I'm Asia.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm a junior.
Yep.
And one thing I want to do is travel.
Just domestically, internationally, just whatever. Perfect. Cool. All right.
Hi, Martin.
Nice to meet you.
I'm junior. One thing I do is open a bar.
Okay. Any specific type of bar or just,
No, not really. Maybe like a chain or whatever, but I can't bar.
and where are you from?
Yeah, I'm Dutch.
Nice. Are you actually Amsterdam or?
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Art?
Seth,
Nice to meet you.
from Los Angeles. I would just be involved in music, like performing, writing, production, if I had all the time for it.
Are you, any specific type of music or?
Rap, hip hop, jazz,
Oh,
yeah.
perfect. All right.
Anything.
Jeremy
Yeah.
from Los Angeles. Probably be like a sports owner of like a professional team or something.
Any specific sport?
Probably basketball, so it's NFL, to be honest.
Cool, very interesting. Art, nice to meet you.
I'm from LA.
All the LA guys sit together.
I'm probably get a yacht.
Get a yacht and sail the road, so you're just cruising around. Or is anyone else on the yacht or just you? Maybe don't answer the question. Perfect. I'm Art.
Max.
Nice to meet you, Max.
So I'm from Venice, California, and I also travel around a lot, do music, yeah,
Very cool.
electronic music.
I like it. Cool, cool, cool. Art?
Hi, Carol.
Nice to meet you, Carol.
I'm from the Bay.
Okay.
I would probably take a class in like all of the fields I'm interested in. I'll do like neuroscience, forensic anthropology, music, I'll just do everything.
Very cool. Interesting. I love it. Art?
Anton from China.
Nice to meet you. That's big. Where are we in China?
Shenzhen, the
Oh,
city
sure.
that's in Hong Kong.
Sure.
So I do like computer science or data science, software engineer.
And that's, you can do whatever you want. That's where you still naturally gravitate to? I shouldn't put it like that. That's what, like, I'm not judging. I just want to make sure that you heard, like, you can do anything, but if that's what you really want to do.
Yeah, because like my education, right?
Yeah.
That's what I learned here, and I'm gonna apply the knowledge.
Perfect. Cool, cool, cool.
Sam.
Nice to meet you, Sir Sam.
I'm from the South Bay, and
Just took me 2 hours to get from there. It's like a different country. Go ahead.
yeah, it's traffic. I would want to play professional soccer.
Nice. Do we have a specific team that we follow?
I like a number of teams, but like somewhere in Europe would be cool.
Nice. Art.
Arvin.
Arvin?
From the South Bay.
Okay.
Somewhere that's like one of the soccer teams. But
If you want to still play professional?
yeah.
I love it. So you guys sat next to each other.
Yeah.
And are from the South Bay. Now you're in trouble. I'm Art.
Kaylin.
Nice to meet you, Kayla.
Nice to meet you. I'm from Shanghai.
Uh-huh.
I will want to keep traveling all the time.
Just keep going. There's no legal issues. You just want to travel.
Yeah.
All right.
Ross,
Nice to meet you, Ross.
from Palos Verdes, California.
Yeah. We've got a lot of Southern California.
Yeah. If I do anything, probably like go like search the world for undiscovered like beaches and like islands, stuff like that.
Are you a diver, snorkeler? Or?
Surfer.
Nice.
So search
Beautiful.
for like hidden breaks, stuff like that, and shapes and surfboards. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Art.
I'm Mary. I'm from Alameda, which is like San Francisco. And if I could do anything, I would definitely travel, but to like see like different cultures of people and like how people live and things like that.
Love it. Art.
I'm Ian.
Nice to meet you.
I'm from New York, which is in the Bay Area. If I could do anything, I'm a sports agent.
Really? Any specific sport?
The main three, probably basketball, baseball, football.
You know what I love is you go on, like, you can already see your fellow students, like how unique and different, each one of you guys, for the most part, have a different, don't, like, truly, write this down, don't lose touch of this, because it's amazing how quickly, it's sad, because I've been doing this a lot, I do a lot of talks at MBA school and so forth, I have them write it down, and then later on, you see what people go into, as long as it's truly what, the alignment of what you really want to do, and maybe you're learning things and your vision changes, but it's amazing, this thing about being pragmatic, or like, oh, it's not the right thing to do. Hold yourself accountable, because like, I really believe when you're tapped into doing what you love doing, it's like a life force. It's like, I can't make this up, it's like, I know when I'm doing what I love doing, because I have a ton of energy. That's why I come up here, like, I didn't have any, like, I live in Cupertino, drove 2 hours to talk to you, I love working with you, I do a lot of seed investment and so forth, but I know I'm doing what I love doing, because I just have a ton of energy for it. Same thing with dating, friends. If that person that you're with doesn't give you energy and inspires you, move on. Airlift, get in the helicopter and find someone else. It's all intertwined. Someday I'm gonna get in trouble because like it is. It's all, your career, your relationship. If you're not getting energized from those individuals, leave. Truly, life is too short. And you're looking at a guy, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about my life, that some pretty crazy stuff happened to me. And unfortunately, like near-death stuff. And when you're like near death, and you see death in the eye, you start figuring out every breath is a gift. Every breath is a gift. Choose wisely how to use that gift. Like literally, this could be, God forbid, it's the last, we walk out, I get hit by the bus, game over. How did I spend that last day? Do things, there is no tomorrow. And the more you start thinking, the more I started thinking like that, and the more I started taking risks, and the more I stopped operating out of fear, the more, that's when the world opens up. Like I call it dead man walking. Until you start really pushing yourself out of the box, that's when the excitement happens. So, you're on deck. Your name?
Sherry.
Nice to meet you, Sherry.
I'm a junior.
Yeah.
I'm actually from the East Coast.
Yeah, I don't think I would really change how I live my life right now if I like had the ability to do anything. I think it's like what you talked about, right? Like the ability to have like all the money at your hands like, gives you the energy and gives you the time to explore what you want to do. So I don't have that answer yet, but hopefully like having that would give me that like leeway to figure out what it was.
Perfect. So where on the East Coast?
So I live in a couple places. I live in Massachusetts, New York, and Connecticut.
So that's the East Coast.
Andrew here.
Nice to meet you.
I'm from SoCal, Ventura County,
Yep.
and if I had $1 billion, I guess I would open like a luxury food restaurant on like a beach somewhere, like Malibu or something, like and just chill.
Perfect. I love it. Art?
Anthony.
Nice to meet you, Anthony.
Second year, I'm from Sonoma County, so I'm from Runner Park. If I had all the money and like you said, I'd probably just be with my family and treat them the things that I could really never afford to do, like travel and do stuff like that, and just enjoy their presence with it.
Art?
Ed,
Nice to meet you.
I'm a junior, grew up in London, San Francisco. If I had that, I would be the owner of Chelsea Football Club.
Nice. Very cool. Art?
I'm Foz, I'm from London.
Yep.
The first thing I do is I own Fulham Football Club, which is like a hometown football club next to me. And the second thing I'd probably just do something with like my best mates, like be with them, travel, anything like that.
Very cool.
Surround myself with that.
Also part of this is what I found in a lot of the classes too. A lot of people don't know what other people's common interests are. It was interesting after some of the classes I looked like, all of a sudden these guys would be, hey, you're interested in the food industry or whatever, and all of a sudden they're starting some business or whatever. So just taking note of that. Art.
Grant. I'm from Chico, California,
Nice.
and I think I would hike Everest.
Nice. Wow. Very cool. That's intense. Art.
Hi, Anna.
Nice to meet you, Anna.
I'm from Texas.
Okay. We're in Texas.
Fort Worth.
Nice. Okay.
And I think I do something to help underprivileged kids.
Wow. Very cool. Art.
Hi, Isabel.
Nice to meet you as well.
I'm from New Zealand.
New Zealand.
North
Island or South Island?
I'm from the North Island, but I studied in the South Island, so I'll claim both.
Perfect. Love it.
I'd like to start a new university in New Zealand if I had that money.
And what's with this university? What's different about it?
Just to be more like top on the global scale. We don't have a top university in like the top 100 in the world, so I'd like to get a university like Berkeley to New Zealand.
Very cool. Cool. Art.
Hi, Maddie.
Nice to meet you, Maddie.
Me too. I'm a sophomore. I'm from
Okay.
Santa Cruz.
Nice.
I don't know exactly what I'd want to do, but I want to wake up with the view of the ocean every day.
Beautiful. Nice. Keep
Hi,
Art.
Andy. I'm a freshman.
Yep.
I'm from Nanjing, which is like a city in China.
Okay.
If I am a billionaire, I want to come up with a company dealing with the stock market, and I can just sit in the office and doing those mathematical models for the stocks.
So you like doing mathematic models for the stocks? So I like it. Art.
Hi, I'm Julia.
Yes?
I'm from Germany and...
Oh, it's good sign. One of Twitch is there selected for Sunday Night Business Twitch.
Oh,
I lived in
that's-
Wiesbaden for a long time. So go ahead.
That's good, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I would like to travel the world and try a lot of different sports, preferably surfing and soccer.
Nice. Do you surf? Okay.
I
cool.
try at least.
You try, okay. Who do we have here?
Wesley.
Wesley.
Yeah, I'm from Shanghai, China.
Yes.
And if I have $1 million, I would to do a real estate business.
Okay.
To buy houses, most expensive houses all over the world.
So you have $1 billion, you want to make more money, you just like really like real estate. You just like real estate.
Just buy and then rent them out.
I love it. Go ahead. It sounds like you know this guy, as you were laughing. Okay.
If I had $1 million, I'll open up my own fashion company, and I'll fulfill my dreams of having art companies all over the world, and which is one in Australia, one in France, one in New York, one in Hong Kong, and one in San Francisco.
Sounds like you got good taste. Who do we have here in the quarterfinal?
James.
Sir James.
I'm from Orange County. I'm a senior, and I probably want to pursue being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion.
Really? Wow. Very cool.
I'm Riley.
Yep.
I'm from Orange County as well.
Yep.
And I would probably get a sailboat and just sail around the world.
Perfect. Good. Go ahead.
I'm Capri. I
Yeah.
come from China.
Yes.
And I want to start a tech company that can help me build a better world.
Oh, very cool. I like it. What do we got here?
Hi, I'm Misha. I'm
Misha.
a junior transfer student. If I had $1 billion...
Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Berkeley, actually, right around here.
Misha sounds Russian.
It is a Russian name, but I'm German.
Okay.
So, don't know why my parents decided that, but they did. But if I had $1 billion, I'd go one of two divergent routes. Either follow my German heritage and open a Biergarten in Munich.
Okay.
Or I would teach computer science at a community college.
Did you know this about him? I love it. I'm Art. Nice
Billy.
to meet you. Hey guys, love Berkeley. Okay.
I'm from Seattle, Washington, and if I could do that, I would move back to Seattle and settle down. And so we had this speaker come in last semester, but that taught us like about social entrepreneurship, and that's what I would do. Where he basically like traveled the world learning about like how coffee is grown and collecting like coffee samples, and then like went back to Saudi Arabia and started his own like coffee farm from the ground up, and basically revolutionized the way they were growing coffee. So it was like the highest quality coffee in the world, and then brought that back to the States, and now he like has like this super high quality coffee. So I would do something that combines like that traveling and also helping people, but also like running a business and like making money.
I love it. Perfect. Who do we have here?
I'm Emma. I'm
Emma.
also from the Seattle area.
Yeah.
Where are you from in the Midwest? Or-
Indianapolis.
Okay, my parents are from Ohio and Michigan, so
Nice.
Midwest people.
Feeling the Midwest vibe. Go ahead.
Absolutely. He stole mine. I would travel and especially work with women in developing countries on family planning and education and start my own social enterprise as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm Art.
I'm Lauren.
Yeah.
I'm from Santa Monica, and I'm a sophomore. And I would probably be a history teacher.
Cool. Very cool. Art.
Hi, I'm Tess. Nice to meet you too. I'm from Los Angeles, so naturally I'm interested in the entertainment industry. So I would probably do costume design or set design.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Art.
I'm Brian from Ireland.
Nice one.
I play music professionally.
Really? Any specific instrument?
I play bass.
Oh, you do?
Rock, jazz, blues. all
Even
that
your
stuff.
voice. So Dublin or Shannon or where?
I study in Dublin, but I'm from the west coast of Ireland.
Very cool. I'm Art.
Win.
Nice to meet you, sir. Win.
From New York City.
Nice.
Probably buy a New York sports franchise.
Really?
Yeah.
So we want the Knicks or Yankees?
Well, you know, I still want a few million left over, so look at the market a little bit.
Look at the market.
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Is there anyone that I missed here? I hope I didn't miss anyone. You know, I knew we took some time on it, but that's how important I think this is. I really can't emphasize enough. You should write down what you said today and put a date. I'd like a show of hands. I'd like a show of hands. You guys each told me something today about what you wanted to do. I'd like to have a show of hands of those of you that are actually doing something during your week. It may be only 5 minutes, maybe only 10 minutes, but it's related to what you're really passionate about. Can I see the hands? And I appreciate the honesty there. So, one, I applaud you guys, the ones that are actually doing things that are in alignment with what you said. Because I understand, you got a full curriculum, it's busy, you have extracurricular activities or whatever, but I can't emphasize enough, I'm going to use the example, let's say your passion is playing the violin. And actually, there's a lot of singing. Actually, that's a common, the two kind of big ones. It's interesting. Travel, everyone, it doesn't matter where I speak, whatever, everyone wants to travel. And then two, it's amazing how many people that are interested in the arts. But then when you ask them, singing, or they want to play the violin, you ask them, during this last month, when was the last time you played the violin, or when did you sing last? And they did. So there's either one of two things that are happening. One is that's really not important to you. Or it is really important to you, but you completely have misalignment and you're spending your time on things that are really not important. I'm going to share with you, I have a life coach. She was one of the most valuable things she taught me. And these are a lot of things. I'm turning 50 this year, so it's I'm celebrating the big Hawaii 5-0 in Honolulu. And so it's taken a long time to kind of get some of the knowledge that I'm sharing with you, and I'm sure if I was talking to myself when I was your age, I probably wouldn't listen to me. I would have been like that, whatever, blah, 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 whatever assignments associated with that speaker, I'm going to write it down and then it'll be done. But my coach, she had me write down, she said, my life coach, and so a big part of my life that happened later on in my life is I went through a really horrific divorce. Actually, I lived in Russia for a while. I met my former wife there. That's why I was asking Misha. So I went through unfortunately, a really challenging divorce. Fortunately, everything is good now, but 4 years of not so good. And during that period of time, I'm a very historically optimistic, positive person. The glass is always half full. But actually, during that period of time, I got a pretty dark place. I got kind of depression, and I was just in a complete funk. Because it was not only going through this horrific divorce, I had to step down from being CEO of my company, because I was in court all the time. Coupled then I was on a zip line. This is when I was talking kind of near death. I was on a zip line that broke. So you're looking at a guy that, I used to travel 200 nights a year. You know, I flew around, I've been to over 100 countries, so really the world is my little playground. And all of a sudden I was on this zip line, I couldn't walk. And I literally couldn't get from my bed to my bathroom. And I became intimate with every tile in my bathroom. And all of a sudden it started making me think, you know, what am I doing in life? I had financial security, and I had all these things, but like, what is this, what matters and what doesn't matter? So one of the things she had me do, she goes, Art, quickly write down the things that are important to you. And I said, for you guys' knowledge, I have a daughter that's turning 16 tomorrow. That's how old I am. I can't believe she's driving me around now. And so I said, you know, my daughter's a top priority to me. My health is number one. Eating healthfully is really number one. So I had all these quick answers that I wrote down. And I submitted it to her. I was like, boom, done. So then a couple of months passed, and then she goes, hey, Art, do you mind taking a spreadsheet and tracking what time you wake up in the morning and how you spend every day? And so I'm really good with spreadsheets. I was like on it. So I came up with all spreadsheets, tracking how I spent my day. And I did that for literally a month period of time. And I gave her all the spreadsheets. She said, can you give that to me? And so she then added up how I spent my time. And lo and behold, my daughter, you know, I see my daughter maybe on the weekend. I told her that was number one priority is my daughter. How I spent my time. The two things, I could care less what comes out of your mouth. The way you vote is how you spend your time. And looking at your credit card statement, how you spend your money. Because what comes out of your mouth is kind of like what you think should be said. But really, 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 how you really vote is how you spend your time and the credit card statement. And when she did that exercise with me, all the things that I said was really important, I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating healthy. You know what was number one? It was my internet company. I worked like a dog. I worked 80 hours a week. And I love my internet company too. And I'm the founder of it, CEO, and that's my baby also. But that was like number 4 in the list, not 1, 2, or 3. And so it was a big awakening. She goes, look, at the end of the day, it's the woman and the man in the mirror. The only one you're BSing is yourself. So when you write down the things that are important to you, like if I heard you guys say, these are some things important, you guys can start working on those things today. This is not, you don't have to wait until you finish school. You can do them today. And if you're really passionate about those things, it should be easy for you. That's what you should be doing in your free time. Like on a weekend, you have a little extra time, have your homework done, studied for your exam. It's like, that's when I was building the airline and building the business plan, literally I just could stay up until 3 in the morning. I know it sounds really geeky, but that's what I love doing. So I was thinking about how the layout of the aircraft, everything. I think you hear what I'm saying. Be true to yourself. There's one of my favorite quotes. It's a Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu. Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Wisdom is understanding others. Wisdom is understanding others. Enlightenment is understanding yourself. I really believe the whole journey of life, all this stuff is minutia. Your classes, all this stuff in the outside world, it's all learning inside what's really important to you. And the way you learn what's important to you is by trying a lot of stuff. It's like going to different schools, meeting different people, it's having different relationships. I can't emphasize enough. Date around, try a lot of different flavors, see what you like, see what you don't like, because what you learn, now you're looking at a guy that's divorced, been in a lot of different relationships, and so it's now, you know, people have told me ever since I was young that I should journal and write stuff down. I never did that. It only took, it was until about 4 years ago when I had the terrible divorce and I almost died, that all of a sudden I was like, hey, maybe I should start doing these things that people suggest to me. And so I started writing down like the relationships I've been in. I wrote like what I liked about this person, what I didn't like about this person. And like, that's invaluable lessons to learn. But you never, or at least I never spent any time doing that because it wasn't an assignment. It wasn't like anyone's going to tell you to do that. So it's like, these are the most important things, which I never did. So I hope that you're getting a gist. Another piece of advice I give you guys too, and I normally open every talk with this, is going back, time is our most valuable asset. If what I'm talking to you guys is not resonating with you, I don't take it personally, just leave the class. Like spend time doing things that are important, the things that resonate with you. And if you have a speaker, if you have a friend, if you have a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever, there's some things that are obligations that you need to attend. But if you don't need to attend it, and it's not inspiring you, and you're not learning from it, and you're just like, your head's somewhere else, leave. Like I can't tell you how many times, I just, really, like life, every breath is a gift. Really, be conscious about how you spend that gift, and be intentional. So, I'm gonna go high speed just through the end of my kind of journey of life, and then I'm gonna open up to questions. Yeah, so built the internet company. We grew a ton, now doing business in 100 countries, 40 currencies. then the world kind of turned me upside down. I went through this horrific divorce. My eyes got opened up to a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware of. Coupled with all my travels, I've spent a lot of time in some pretty tough places. Sudan, Syria, seeing some really poor areas. And you don't need to go to Sudan. You know, right here in our backyard, it's unconscionable in my mind, the inequities that we have in our country and some of our urban environments, like, literally from, you guys know what I'm talking, just a couple of miles away, we have crazy wealth, crazy education, and then nothing. And so with the amount of wealth and education we have, it's unconscionable. And so the more I got exposed to that, there's a fundamental truth I came to as I traveled the world. We're all one. I really believe we're all one. I don't care your race, religion, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic class. When I'm looking at you, I'm looking at myself. How I treat you is how I treat myself. And if we don't figure out how to play on this little marble called Earth that's flying through the universe, in 1950 we had 2.5 billion people. And by 2050 we're gonna have 9 billion people. Like, if we don't start understanding how to play in this little sandbox, there is gonna be no more party. Like, the climate change, all of a sudden these things became really crystallized in my head as I got older. Like, no, this is not, we're not talking Armageddon 1,000 years off. We're talking 40, 50, 60 years. And then also being an individual that I won the lottery of birth. That's something else I learned. My father's a physician, my mom's college educated. I never had to worry about food. I never had to worry about a roof over my head. The only thing I had to do was show up. So my analogy of my life is I was born on third base and I thought I hit a triple. I started spending a lot of time in under-resourced communities because when I went through kind of my depression years of the divorce, my coach not only did that exercise with me, she goes, have you ever done anything for anyone else other than yourself? She goes, you're pretty, you're pretty focused on art. It's pretty much, it's not wrong. She goes, the vast majority of humanity, it's kind of, they're in their own bubble, and she goes, but how about doing something where they don't know you're doing it, you're not getting any paid for it, it's basically volunteering. And basically I really had not done any of that. And so, lo and behold, I started volunteering in East Palo Alto, and I started meeting a lot of the kids, and visiting their apartments, a studio where you have 10 kids in one apartment, and starting to see moms working 3 jobs, this is a couple miles from where I live. And so it was just a big wake-up call for me. I was really ignorant and naive, and I've been really privileged to be at a company that went from nothing. We grew a ton, and then two, the people I know, I have a lot of venture capital friends, private equity friends, a lot of entrepreneurs. And when I went back, my divorce concluded, and what I decided to do is, we have huge problems on this planet. Instead of optimizing revenue, not that that's not important for hotel reservations, but I'm going to try to conquer and tackle the biggest problems that we have as humanity. And so I've gotten really involved in eradicating poverty with a focus specifically in early childhood development. I think someone here raised the hand, neuroscience. I got really interested during the divorce because of just a lot of things. Mental health. And how we handle mental health in this country is abysmal, and not only here, it's globally, with homelessness, incarceration. And then I did a big deep dive in neuroscience. I can't emphasize enough to you guys, neuroscience is crazy, unbelievably. Everyone should start doing research on it, because you start learning how your brain works, and you start learning what happens in those early years when you're in your mother's womb, and the first 1,000 days of life have huge impact on what happens in the rest of your life. So, a lot of stuff here. But I've gotten really, really interested in those early years and how we can eradicate poverty by getting things right in those early years of a child's life. So, a lot of stuff there. I think we've got 10 more minutes, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Whatever questions, we can go into, one you can go hey, we're done, but I don't, this is not interesting to me, and if you guys want to airlift out, that's fine too. But we can talk about whatever, on entrepreneurship, taking an idea to reality, funding, that whole side. If you want to talk about significant others and how to have a divorce and how that whole thing can be an interesting journey, which is all intertwined. So don't think it's separate, it's all one big puzzle. That this one goes this way, it pushes this way down. So, questions? Go ahead.
Two books. One is the most. If you could only recommend one book on entrepreneurship and startups and building a company, what would you recommend? And then second, if you can only recommend one book, period, what would you recommend?
Okay, so my favorite book is Man's Search for Meaning. This is a gentleman that during the Holocaust, he's a psychologist and that was in a concentration camp, and talking when everything is stripped away from you. You've lost your family, you've lost everything. What meaning do you have? So it's Viktor Frankl, The Answers for Meaning. So I love that book. And then on the entrepreneurship side, I'm big on history and biographies. I love biographies. Like when I was in college, and then when I was starting my air conditioning company, I read all Steve Jobs' book, Bill Gates, any biography about an entrepreneur, I would read, and I'm notorious to read only the part of the book that's relevant to where I am in life. Like, if, like Steve Jobs, I'd only read the first couple chapters, because as Apple became bigger, then that's not where my company was. I just wanted to read the part that was applicable when I was in the early stages of the company. So I'd read like 20 biographies of entrepreneurs in parallel, but just the part that where I felt where I was in life. Love those, and they're super helpful. That, because they're like, those are, mentors. So those are the two things, and also, so books being mentors, and then actually finding physical mentors. I wanted to start my own company, so I found entrepreneurs that had started their own company and started hanging around them and literally going to meetings with them and, just sitting there, not getting paid, but listening. I can't emphasize enough. Like, I probably shouldn't have this on recording, but I've said this numerous times. Like, if you really wanted to start a company, I probably shouldn't have gone to Purdue. I should have immediately just found an entrepreneur that had built something and just shadow him. And just shadow multiple entrepreneurs, because what you can learn by shadowing is just unbelievable. So, that answers your question. Perfect. Additional questions?
So like, I'm interested in like helping other people. I think other people also mentioned that. So how did you go about like zeroing in on this specific area that you are helping in, and like especially coming from a position of privilege, and like there's a whole, it seems like there's so many places you can go to help other people, but how did you like find this, and also like what's your strategy for like ensuring what you're doing is effective, and helping people, because there's lots of like NGOs out there and nonprofits that have the best of intentions and yet aren't like making a real good impact.
No, great question. So one is a philanthropist told me that had a really big impact. He goes, Art, you're standing in the middle of an island in a rushing river, and all of a sudden a kid comes down that river screaming and drowning. You may have heard this analogy before. Second kid comes by screaming, drowning. Third kid, fourth kid, fifth kid, 11th kid, 12th kid, 13th kid. He goes, choice number one, you jump in the water and try to save one of the kids. Choice number two, you try to build a net across the river to catch the kids as they're coming down drowning. Choice number three, you jump in the water, go to shore, and then go upstream and see why they're going in the first place. Now he goes, Art, this was 2 years ago, so he's like, you're 48 years old, you have unique superpowers, which I believe each and every one of us do. Everyone here has a unique superpower that no one else does, and if you're aligned with what you're really supposed to be doing, that's when you can move mountains. So he said, you got a unique superpower, Art, you have a lot of experience, a network of relationships, and your heart. Where do you naturally gravitate? And I'm very much a kind of like go to the source kind of guy, and on top of it, historically, I've been involved, actually kind of as I got, like this was a couple years ago, the whole thing about volunteering, I got involved with Boys and Girls Club and a whole homeless shelters and a whole myriad of things, and which are all really important things, but what I kept seeing is we just kept on having more and more problems. I was like, how do we go to the source and go and stop the homelessness at the source? And so that had a big impact on me, of this concept of going to the source or going upstream. The other thing that had a big impact on me, because during the divorce, I got really interested in mental health and then neuroscience, and I learned in neuroscience that when we're in our mother's womb, and then the first 1,000 days of life, like what happens in those early years, like I won the lottery, I was born, always food, there was no violence in my house, I didn't see my mother beaten, my mother wasn't on cocaine, that stuff that's happening, when you look at a sibling, if you see a 1-year-old, I used to think, okay, they're, like my daughter, actually, there's not many regrets that I have in my life, but I feel I miss my daughter's childhood. Like those first 3 years, you think they're just sitting there in their diapers and doing nothing. They're absorbing more information than any other time of their life, and they're like, that's really critical time. And so, if we get things right then the impact on that trajectory of that child's life goes up dramatically. But if you don't have it right then, and like you let the issues that we have as society persist for those first 3 years, it's almost game over. Like it's sad to say, it's like you already know who's going to prison by age 4 and 5. So I got really interested in those early years. I've always gravitated, I love mentorship, I love entrepreneurship, I love education. I think education is one of the greatest, most, other than love, the most powerful force in the world. I saw where in India and other these countries, you educate a woman, you improve the quality of the whole family, the community, the village. And so I was really bullish on education. The two areas that I gravitated to, because I basically, as I was sitting in court all day, thinking, okay, how am I gonna spend the rest of my life? What are the biggest issues that we're facing? And then the two areas was climate change, as I believe that's huge. If we don't get this right, it's game over. And then access to education. And I'm just not that much of a technical guy, though I have an engineering degree, I'm not that technical, and so climate change just didn't get me up in the morning, but the neuroscience stuff, early childhood development did. So that's why I gravitated education, early childhood development. And then to follow up your question, you asked an amazing, spot-on question. How do we know that what we're doing, how we're spending our time and our work ethic is actually impacting and making the change that we believe it? This is not simple. This is really, really complex. We're only starting to try to get our arms around that, but that's the way we need to be thinking. So, good question, but not simple answers. That answer?
Yeah, thank you.
Additional questions? Go ahead, sir.
Like out of all the places you've traveled, like where are some of your favorite?
Wow, there's a lot of apples and oranges as I share this with you. You know, I'm big on, I love Italy, I'm a big fan of Italy. I'm a big diver, snorkeler, surfer. So like Bali, Australia, you know, the Barrier Reef, you know, just, if you guys haven't been to some of these places where to be underwater and you see the aquatic life, it's just, for me, that's like a dream. That's when I'm in heaven and at peace. I put this place, it's called Palau. It's off of the Philippines. You know, this is an island that has these little volcanoes, and they have jellyfish in the volcanoes that don't sting you. It's amazing. And then they also, this is where a lot of World War II was fought in the Pacific Rim. So you can snorkel and you can see like the fighter planes in 6 feet of water, and you can see when they wrecked, and you can see what time on the clock it stopped working. It's just like, it's like unbelievable. So, you know, I liked Russia. You know, I spent a lot of, that's a very, hands up, anyone here visited Russia? Very good. You know, that's like, you know, for a kid that grew up in the Midwest, you know, to do business and live in Russia for a while, you know, it just, I gravitate to things that are different. I want to learn and grow. That's kind of how I wake up every morning, and so Russia's different. But you can find great stuff. You can go to Stockton. I don't hold anything against anyone who lives from Stockton.